Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Hope you're all doing well. We have a bit of a breaking news, kind of breaking news. It broke a fair few hours ago now, but if you are a Bond fan, which I presume you are if you are watching this video, although you might not be, but if you are, you probably have heard the news that we now have a director attached to the as of yet announced Bond film, okay? So there's no script still for the Bond film, there's no obviously title and no actor playing James Bond that's been announced, but a director has been attached. And that is Denis Villeneuve, the French-Canadian director, who is probably the mainstream cinephile kind of critical darling. It's the mainstream cinephile's director of choice at the moment, right? A lot of people love Denis Villeneuve's cinema and his films. And so I think it's a very clever choice by Amazon to pick Denis Villeneuve as the new director of the next Bond film. You got to remember, so the recent announcement that obviously Amazon took over full creative control of this franchise, and cards on the table here. I am, if I were to name my favourite film franchise, it would be probably the Bond franchise. It's definitely the films that I've watched the most throughout my life in terms of being part of a franchise, and I've seen every single one. I'm a huge Bond fan, so I have emotional. It's probably the franchise that I have the most emotional investment in. Okay, so this news did pique my interest, as I would do for most Bond fans and super fans, I think. But a lot of us were very concerned when Amazon took it over, has full creative control, because we thought, is Bond going to just become another content farm where it becomes oversaturated with content? The films get reduced essentially just to a form of content, whereby the quality of the films themselves just drop, and which, let's be honest, we've seen happen with like the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Star Wars. We've seen it time and again, really, and we, as obviously invested fans of the franchise, you don't want to see that happen. So like I said, I think this is a clever decision by Amazon, because what this does is I think it reassures the Bond fans that, we're taking this seriously, we're putting a kind of serious commercial director in charge, at the helm of the film. But also it's very clever in the sense that I think it invites the casual cinephiles who might not have an emotional investment or attachment or interest to the Bond franchise, who will see a film just because Denis Villeneuve's directing it. They are now going to be interested in seeing how he directs a Bond film, I think. So it is, I think from that perspective, it's actually a better choice that Amazon could have made over the other names that were attached to potentially directing Bond, such as we had Edgar Wright, I think, was attached, or rumoured, I should say, and Christopher Nolan. Christopher Nolan is someone that's been rumoured is going to direct a Bond film for years now, and I think it'd actually be a very poor choice. And the reason why I think he'd be a poor choice is because the things that make Nolan an interesting director for a lot of people are the things that would be subsumed or drowned out by him making a Bond film. Okay, and this leads to a greater point that I want to make regarding Denis Villeneuve, right? Denis Villeneuve, of course, is the director who, he's shown that he's very competent at making sci-fi films. He's obviously directing the Dune franchise currently. He's done the first two. I think he's shooting the third one this summer, I think. He's done Arrival, the Blade Runner sequel, Blade Runner 2049. And he's done other films like Sicario, Prisoners, Incendies, Enemy with Jake Gyllenhaal. He's done a lot of films that people seem to gravitate towards and like, okay? For a lot of people, he can do no wrong. Putting my personal opinions of Villeneuve cinema aside, I'm not the biggest actual fan of his films, so I have like some personal gripes about, certain films of his, but also I think him as a director. Putting all that aside, because I think actually that doesn't really matter too much with this. This is the point I want to make, is I don't think ultimately it matters too much who the director is. I think this is a bit of a red herring that people might be getting overexcited about, overinvested in terms of, does it really matter who directs the Bond film too much? Because the Bond franchise is a cottage industry unto itself. It's like it's a mini genre unto itself, right? Which means that it has certain demands and expectations that it needs to meet on behalf of the audience, certain tick boxes, if you like. Those demands are far more important than the authorial voice of a director who's going to get drowned out making a Bond film. Okay, the authorial voice, the auteur vision of the director in question, that's way subservient to the demands of delivering a competent Bond film. And if you're being really honest with yourself now, if you didn't know the directors who directed all the Bond films, like us super fans do, we know who directed each Bond film, could you in isolation tell me who directed each one and how you can tell that? Okay, don't get me wrong, if you're like a huge nerd like myself, you'll be able to kind of like say, oh, this is a John Glenn Bond film because it has the whole pigeon gag in it, where the pigeons come out and scare Bond, for example. That's something that's in John Glenn's Bond films. Okay, fine. But in terms of like actual like being able to, the director attached dictating how good the film's going to be, has there really been that much of a pattern in the Bond franchise? A lot of my Bond films, it doesn't really matter if you actually look at my favourite Bond films. The director in question isn't really that important, necessarily. In fact, I think, if anything, my choice for directing the new Bond film probably would have been Martin Campbell again, because he has at least a proven track record of rebooting the franchise. He did it with GoldenEye, with Pierce Brosnan's Bond, and Casino Royale, of course, with Daniel Craig's Bond. And I think the more important question to ask is what creative direction Amazon are going to take it still, regardless of the director attached, because Denis Villeneuve is going to have to pay attention to the demands of what Amazon want, what the script dictates, and let's be honest, who's going to play Bond? Those are the more important questions, I think, that determine whether the audience is going to accept or reject the new Bond film. Because in the wake of the Craig era, because Bond has a weird thing of like going through cycles. In the wake of the Craig era, I think people are kind of have fatigue over the serious take on Bond, and they want to return to the kind of the Brosnan and the Moore era. This happened when, in the wake of Moore and Brosnan, people wanted a more serious Bond, and you kind of got Dalton, and which Dalton wasn't really accepted that much at the time. His films didn't do amazing box office. But Craig's was clearly a kind of rebuttal to the fatigue of the Brosnan era. Now we're living through the kind of, as people termed it, the Brosnaissance, where people are starting to appreciate the campier or the less serious elements of Bond again. I think we're in that phase of now where people want that again. So the more important question is it able to deliver on those terms? So for me, Villeneuve is a director who, he's shown he's a competent genre director, and that's what's most important to me. It's not the fact that it's Denis Villeneuve himself, who, like I say, I have individual doubts as to his kind of how talented he is as a filmmaker, or the greatness of the films that he delivers. Like I say, I know a lot of people are massive fans of his, and think he can kind of do no wrong, basically. But it raises questions about, again, I think too many of us place too much onus on like, the director being the author of the film, auteurship as it's known, right? Auteur theory. To me, Villeneuve really hasn't proven himself to be an auteur anyway. He's more of a kind of what the French would call a metteur en scène, which basically means someone who takes the script and is just able to turn that into a serviceable movie based upon the demands of the script or whatever it is, And that's what you need for a Bond film, though. So this isn't a knock. That's what you need. The director kind of should be invisible, as it were. If you actually look at a lot of the directors that worked on the Bond films, like I say, not only would you not only be able to tell who directed each one if you didn't already know, okay, but a lot of them had prior kind of, they had prior workings on the franchise, You look at, for example, Peter Hunt or someone like John Glenn, they were previous editors and second unit directors respectively on the Bond films, okay? Or a lot of them directed multiple films. By the time we got to something like GoldenEye, you only had about 5 directors that directed, between 5 different directors directed all the Bond films, Like I say, John Glenn, Lewis Gilbert, Guy Hamilton, Peter Hunt, and Terence Young. That's it. So it was something that actually kind of surprisingly was kind of intimate in terms of its selection of who was going to, who worked within it, basically. Like I say, it's a cottage industry into itself. I think actually the recent Bond films becoming more bloated is more of a kind of industrial problem that the franchise faces, actually. And bigger name directors have become attached. It's important to remember in the Brosnan era, there was a different director for every single one. And could you honestly tell me that Tomorrow Never Dies was a signature Roger Spottiswoode film? Like, you could actually tell, oh yeah, definitely Roger Spottiswoode directed this. Or World Is Not Enough, that's definitely a Michael Apted film. You can tell Michael Apted directed this. Of course not, okay? They were following the demands of what the franchise dictated for them, okay? So I think that's really important to remember here, that not to overstate the importance of the director in this situation, that they have demands that they're going to follow. And that if they do have an authorial voice, it will be drowned out by that, more than likely, okay? That's not to say he's automatically going to deliver a good or a bad film. I just think it's not going to, you know, it's going to be more dictated by those other factors that I've already called into question. So, and the James Bond franchise, I think more than anything, is a kind of rebuttal to auteur theory, because auteur theory dictates that the director is the author of the film. He's the most important voice that shines through and makes it art, if you like, okay? But the Bond film to me, it's a success based upon the amalgamation of, like, who is the author of James Bond? Is it Ian Fleming? Is it the individual script writers? Is it Cubby Broccoli? Is it Sean Connery? Is it John Barry? Is it Maurice Binder? Is it Ken Adam? All these people that, you know, is it the stunt coordinators that make incredible action? Like, all these people that worked on different Bond films time and again, the question is, the answer to that question is all of them. All of them are responsible for crafting a great Bond film. So, again, this news, you could argue, you know, obviously it's subjective whether you find it really exciting or not. I think it's, like I say, it's reassuring that Amazon had, you know, at least taking this acquisition seriously. Villeneuve's come out and released a statement to say, you know, he has personal, emotional history and investment in this. You know, he used to watch the Connery films with his father when he was a kid, he said, and it's a great honour for him to direct the Bond films, although every director is going to say that, who's just been hired, of course, but you know, you get the picture. He at least has some personal, emotional investment attached to this, which, again, is kind of reassuring. But let's not get too carried away in thinking, well, you know, that's it now. We're probably going to get a good Bond film, you know. Again, a lot of other factors come into play here. Who knows? So we'll just have to wait and see. With that said, let me know your thoughts in the comments of what you think, Denis Villeneuve. Do you think it matters too much? Are you actually really bummed out by the decision? Are you a fan of Villeneuve's work or not? Do you think it's even going to factor into making a good Bond film? Are you even interested in where the Bond franchise goes from here? So, yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comment section, guys. If you like the video, don't forget, of course, leave a comment, of course, be part of the discussion, like and subscribe. I do all kinds of film videos. I don't typically do actually like kind of breaking news videos, but because I'm a Bond fan, a massive Bond fan, I thought this warrants a video. So, yeah, with that, guys, I'll see you in the next one. And as always, take care and take it easy.